Hey guys, welcome to another video. So in this video we are going to talk about performing security testing on REST API. So REST API is something which is quite widely used by many application or many developers or many organizations basically to develop their application because it makes it really easy for others to implement their API calls or consume their API calls and make some other application or like implement some for different usage. So we're going to talk about what is REST API and how does it work. Then I will slowly jump into like what are different things like tools that we can use, set up environment, and we are also going to see like what are the common vulnerability that you find in REST API. Then we'll also see like what are the different logical cases that you can basically try on REST API. And then we'll also see things like how to automate using Fuzz API, or I think Astra is another tool. Also there are things like Postman collection that can be used for automating with Burp suite. So all those things we are going to discuss one by one. So this will be the part 1 and I'll be waiting for your response. If you guys really like my videos, then please do share with your friends and family, do comment. So I see a lot of people actually liking my videos inside Facebook group. So it would be really great if you could do the same in my YouTube video link so that I get some response. I don't individually visit all those groups, but I do reply on my YouTube channel. So if you have any query, do write in the comment box and like, share, and also subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe my channel to get more videos that I post on function security. So let's get started. So first of all, what is web services? So web service is something different calls or endpoints which are being used to communicate to devices or to different endpoints or to, let's say, system. Right, so different developer typically find it really useful or easy to create API calls so that can be implemented to create more feature or put some different UI on top of it or make it more features on top of that. So that is really the main purpose of developing web services. It makes the communication between client and server, or let's say server to server, really easy. Right, so let's jump into it. So there are two different type of web services. So earlier there used to be SOAP, which is like quite older now. SOAP is nothing but simple object access protocol, and then it has like things like WSDL or web services descriptive language. There are things like UDDI or universal description discovery and integration. So these are like old days. So if you see any calls which are developed in WSDL or SOAP or let's say like the UDDI, so those are quite older technology. But right now we have something known as REST API, which is quite like light, I would say, and it's really support a lot of different features, and it supports things like you can have different status codes like 201 or 200 or let's say like 200, okay, things like that, right? It also support OAuth authentication and different features. Probably a developer would know better than me because they find it really useful to use REST API. And if you see in the Bugbounty stuff also, there are a lot of people who found or target basically the REST API to get a lot of vulnerability, and that is where actually a lot of the time you will find things like issue like your authorization flaw or things like read-write permission or let's say like IDOR or privilege escalation things. Even I have seen those issues quite a lot inside the REST API rather than your web application. Now to start with, I have basically used this Owasp REST security cheat sheet during my beginning days. In fact, I would suggest you to try out the same. It's really nice. If you see here, they have quite nicely explained everything that you need, like things like HTTPS and things like access control. I have made a special video on JWT token. So if you are new to this channel, then please go ahead and browse that. I'll put the link inside description box so that you can find it really helpful to learn about JWT token and different flaws. So things like you will find vulnerability related to API keys, different header methods like get, post, put, delete. These are quite commonly used inside your REST API. So a lot of time misconfiguration happens related to your put method or delete method, right? You will also find issue like input validation and things like content type, which is one of the very critical point to find vulnerabilities. So things like you will have most of the time application plus JSON, which is really good, but there are a lot of misconfiguration also that we have seen related to your content type misconfiguration. Now if you scroll down a bit more, then you will see things like management of endpoints is another weak area, things like error handling, audit logs, different security headers. Course is one of the major issue that you most of the time find inside your REST API. things like sensitive information HTTP requests, that is also sometimes they leaks about things like let's say your user credential, debit card, credit card, private IP and all those things, right, which will also you will find inside the HTTP request. Different status code which also will help you for like performing security testing. So we are going to through all these kind of testing during our these videos. So basically this will be the first, or I would say, overview video. If you guys really show the interest on my videos, then I will definitely make more videos on this. So the first thing we are going to talk about the approach. So while performing security testing on REST API, you need to have the documentation ready of it. So it's not, most of the time people think like they get the endpoints like different calls and they think like, okay, we are ready to start performing security testing on REST API, which is not true. So you need to have the documentation first to perform or start testing on REST API, which will definitely help you. Then second thing is like ask them for the, or if you are testing, refer the like sample request response, which will definitely help you for, or if you have like Postman collection, which is typically used by your functional tester, then ask them those things. That are going to really helpful. Now third thing is like, do they need any particular header? Understand basically the request. If there is a requirement for a specific header, then you need to ask them or refer to the documentation and read about that. Specifically I'm talking about if you are inside Bugbounty, right? There are also things like different parameters which are useful, things like flow, like you need to create a user, then go to the user, view, edit the data, all those things kind of things, right? So you need to understand the flow of different API calls also. So in this video we are going to do exactly same, like we'll understand every documentation and details and then start testing the vulnerable application. Now it's not only about fudging the parameters, but it's also about understanding the like the codes or understanding the endpoints that will definitely help you for finding more vulnerability. So these are the different approaches which I personally use, and I would suggest you to follow this so that you will definitely get some vulnerability out of it. Now next thing is like the tools that we are going to use. So we'll be using most likely our web browser only, but you can also use tools like Postman or REST client. We are going to also use Burp suite, which is one of the interception tool, everybody knows it. So we'll also using a Burp suite. In later point of time, I'm not going to explain basically the SOAP API, but I'm going to SOAP UI, I'm going to show you only the REST API stuff, which is quite common these days. So then we will also see things like using automation tool like Astra, Fudge API and all those things to find out more vulnerability. Now there are a lot of vulnerable applications out there in the market, things like DBWS. So if you see here, DBWS is another vulnerable web services which can be used. So I have basically set up using this one, which I really liked recently. It has like Docker container, which is really easy to develop. You can also use multi-day, that is also another option for you. So as per your requirement, but in this series of video or in this video, I'm going to show you with this particular vulnerable application only, because the setup is really easy. So let's go ahead and use this particular vulnerable code. So to start with, the developer, I'll put the link inside the description so that you can go through. So the developer has already put all those links, like how we can install inside Windows or how we can install inside Linux, Mac and everything, right? So the Linux one is really simple. If you have Docker set up on your system, then all you have to do is type this command docker run -it, docker run -tid and -p, the port number and the name basically, and this particular vulnerable API calls. So that way to start your Docker. So I have already basically started this. Let me quickly check. I think it should be running. Yeah, it is running because I already ran this particular command on my Docker. If I try running it again, probably it might show the same thing, like it already exists, but just to show you, I will run it again. So I will run this. So it says conflicts API is already in use, container this thing. So it is already running. Let's not, if I say Docker images, then I think it should be running here also. Make a Control L and run again. So this particular vulnerable API is running over here. Yeah, so this is the pretty much only setup that you need, and since I'm using Kali Linux, so I would suggest to try out for learning purpose at least to use the Kali system for betterment. Of course you can use your Windows system, Burp suite and other things, right? Now the API details is like, again as I say, you need to read this documentation properly so that you get better idea. So it says like the API can be accessed on the system port 8081, which means 8081 which I have already opened, and it says like response application vulnerable API status is running. Let's close other two. Yeah, Owasp we might need slight bit later. So what is vAPI? So vAPI is API written specifically to illustrate common API vulnerability. So we are going through all those vulnerabilities that exist inside this vulnerable API, but we'll try see a few more things that we can also gather. So the API flow, again as I said, you need to understand the flow of the different APIs. So here is the flow. So it says like requests from tokens, return auth token and all details. So if I say like slash tokens, okay, tokens. So this is saying main like JSON data of different user and password basically. But if you see, I couldn't able to enumerate as per the requirement, like there is returns an auth token, returns expiration date and all those things. The only reason because I need to understand the proper API calls, like how the post or get method are being written. So if you see here it is just showing the post tokens that can be used basically. So let's jump ahead and see what all things that we can do basically from here. So to do that, I have to quickly start my Burp suite. So just give me a moment. I'll simply jump over here and type Burp suite. Okay, my bad. And let's enable the proxy. So go to proxy and settings to be 8088. Press OK. So that should be sufficient. Let's wait for the Burp suite to get started, which will take close to 1 minute max. So I hope you guys really liking this video. So please do comment so that I can get some feedback and start preparing more videos on this topic. So our Burp suite is now configured properly. So let's see. If I try, okay, instead of localhost, let me provide my IP address. That is this one. I guess this will get captured. So over here you can see this is the request basically. Now if I go back to here and read about the documentation, so it says like post slash tokens should be the calls that could be used. So if I right click and change request method to post, this is now the post method. Now another thing you need to notice that okay, he has provided the sample request basically, which can be directly used. So let's go ahead and copy it. I guess this will be the really simple way. So always, again as I said, ask the developer about the body request call, right? So how does the request call look like, so they can utilize and generate the same or make the same calls through your Burp suite. So I don't need all these details, all I need is this only now. So as per the requirement, we have just added the stuff. So if I say let's use Burp suite intruder, so right click and send it to Burp intruder, and this is okay, username not found. Okay, I have to change the username value to that something that we see earlier. If I see here, okay, I didn't see, okay, it was user1 and this was also pass1. I guess let me send it. So yeah, so if you could see here properly, so just have to use one extension for JSON beautifier to see the response in the right proper manner. But let's send it on browser basically. So I will simply say like show response on browser just to show you the response. Now if you could see that this is the access token where the expiry date time is this one. Now ID is this one, user details is user1. So this is one of the basic understanding to give you that you need how important it is to understand the different request calls. So if you are through the Bugbounty or something, then go through the documentation properly and basically make a calls for or understand the calls, learn to make the calls, and then focus about the vulnerability. So over here we could see the calls directly about this like token. Now instead of user1, let's try using some of the payload like SQL injection 101 stuff, right? So instead of user1, I am trying to send some like usual SQL injection query which will just basically give me some response or try to bypass the authentication or not. So if I have used single quote, it says like 500 internal error, which is quite common. So if I say or :1 equal to :1, now this is a valid true statement, so I should get a true response also. So if you could see here, we have simply able to bypass the authentication or the, I would say, the username password credential part to get a successful authentication by simply using one of the very popular SQL injection query. So if you could see here, this is also giving us the token value and along with the ID and the user one details. So this is a simple way you can perform a SQL injection in any API. So it's not only about this API, you can utilize any API calls and try this kind of payload to bypass the authentication level check. Many videos which are in pipeline, things like we're going to talk about how to perform enumeration, how to perform rate limit check and bypass, things like information disclosure. We'll see also how to convert method like just we did over here to get to post. So there are also some vulnerability like utilizing post method, put method, delete method. We'll also see how to find IDOR. We all just now see the SQL injection, but we will go further like use tool like SQL map to dump like credentials. We'll see things like authorization flow or vertical privilege escalation, horizontal privilege escalation. I will try to explain you all those things. Then we are also going to see like token related issues like reusability token, token predictability and different things. So there are a lot many things to be covered inside Pentesting REST API. So this is just the first video about like Pentesting REST API. So if you like my videos, please do like, please do share and subscribe so that I will make more videos. So the next video will be coming very recently, maybe tomorrow. I'll be making another video on like performing security testing on REST API. So thanks for watching. Have a nice time.